for their organizations, right? So I'm not able to share screen, ma'am. Can you just
One minute.
post? Yeah, sure.
Yes, I made you the co-host.
Yeah, sure. Hope all of you able to see my content on the presentation content. So
Yes, sir. Screen is clear.
yeah, sure. Yeah. So for today's agenda, these are the four key areas we will be covering. So one is how to scale up the IoT projects. So whatever we do, the data we collect from multiple devices based on the assets and other groupings. So how to scale the project? Say if you create for one particular, if it is a home automation project, if you are creating or collecting the data for one particular room temperature and the humidity, and then how to scale up to the multiple rooms or multiple buildings, and then multiple areas, how to build that. So and then second thing is how to productize your idea. So once you learn new area, and then you generate some ideas, and then how to make a product, right? It should be productizable. Whatever you have an idea, it should be productizable. And second thing, third thing is how to monetize your products or services. So IoT is the platform which equally helps whatever the product you develop. Um, the product in the sense, it could be a simple IoT device which is enabling some specific things kind of seamlessly connect, or it could be helping enabling somebody to provide the services to multiple people, right? So those things, how to monetize. So once you have the idea in place, and then productize in using a right platform, and then this will enable you to monetize your products and services. So the last is we will see a couple of demos. One is using a platform called Software AG, so which our organization is doing projects on that. I'll just show similar demonstration what we have seen on the other day on the PTC ThingWorks platform. So this one is called Software AG. It's a German-based company, and they are there for more than 30-40 years in this yeah, IT area. And the last one is we will see the cloud IoT platform called Things Board, which we have you must have received the link for registering yourself, and then we'll create step by step from a device, and then how to create rules around that, and then how to create uh, dashboards and visualization, and then we see how it can be created with a very no code kind of environment. So with that, we'll conclude that. So so now we'll get into the first topic. So what is cloud computing? So cloud computing is so compared to before cloud computing, so we used to have multiple servers, physical workstations, or high-end machines, right? So and then it will have multiple storage devices attached to that, and then it will have growing more step-by-step manner. And then the database around that, it could be a say SQL Server or Oracle or similar, or even open source based databases like MySQL or Postgre kind of. So so many things are there in this, and then associated networking devices we need, and then the applications we need to be installed, and then having all these applications, and then somebody has to create the analytics around that. So and then building intelligence. So at some point it become a challenge because One is the infrastructure as a whole. It's a challenge in terms of growing in infrastructure and based on the business predictability. So even today's scenario, it's very hard to predict how much I will be using. We can't predict and then procure hardwares and other related applications as well, because the moment you go for hardware and then the associated licenses, including operating system and then other network monitoring and then so many other dependent applications and other infrastructure, it adds the overall project cost to exponentially. So that's where the cloud computing came in picture, so which leaves the business users focus on their own core part of business operation, and then the entire IT infrastructure can be managed by somebody else on a total turnkey kind of environment. So in terms of the IT architecture or the specific to industry or automation or process industries, so it's all starts from the lowest level. So this is based on the architecture developed by Purdue University, and then it is was there for till few years back. Now the new version also has been updated and then released. It's called ISA 99. So for the current discussion, we'll take the one ISA 95. It's more simplified structure. So just to get a feel of where this IoT and then the rest of the corporate or enterprise applications are layered around. So this is purely from the application point of view. So one is on the lowest level. If you see level 0, so this is like actual products, production systems. It could be a manufacturing some particular equipment, and then or it could be a specific compressor or pump, etc. And then the level 1 is what the sensors, right? The sensing part, so which we were discussing last few days. So all our IoT sensors all fall into the level 1 bucket, and then all the sensors need to be connected to some controller so that it can be monitored, and then if there is any set point or any action has to be taken, so that's where the controller comes into picture. So we have seen the embedded controllers like Arduino, so that will sit in the level 2 layer. And once we have level 1 and level 2, and then we are closely monitoring and taking action, unattended or more of an automated manner. So once we have these in place, then the next step is to get the data and then how we can improve the performance of operations. So that's where the layer 3 will comes into picture. So layer 3 focus on how to improve the operations. Say if I connected some pumps and compressors, that may not, that will good for in terms of individual equipment operations or asset operations. But for the organization benefit, it has to be scheduled, right? So each shift, how much quantity need to be produced, or how many components, if it is a discrete kind of industry like automobile ancillaries. So they need to focus on how much need to be produced on a shift basis, on hourly basis. So those are called level 3 applications, where it will focus more on the operational areas, right? How it performs, that particular segment of the assembly line, how it is performing. And the level 4 is more on the business planning. So level 4 we can compare to the enterprise-wide resource planning applications, right? Like you must have heard SAP and Oracle ERP and other BON earlier. So other similar, there are multiple entities, multiple products and platforms are available for the level 4. So this is the architecture, and then how we consume from the physical system and IoT sensors and then IoT controller, and then how it can be monitor the particular performance of the individual section of the particular plant or site, and then the overall how multiple sites can be managed at a enterprise level. And just to give a comparison, so before the current the simplified architecture came into picture. So for example, if somebody has to measure that temperature sensor, then it has to be, the sensor data has to be flowing into a controller, and then it will be and then somebody has to write a application. Could be a C program, most of the or Java program to have a serial port communication, and then it has to be tested on that particular environment, and any changes in the model of the device or the sensor, it all has to be updated whenever there is a change in the any of these components. That make life quite tedious in terms of, because in the industrial environment, maintaining these things are, it has to be properly followed, the process to be followed, and then enormous amount of testing has to be involved before deploying this particular application into that environment. And then there'll be a SCADA kind of system which takes care of processing that supervisory control and data acquisition systems, and then associated visualization, what we call human machine interface, or HMIs they call. And then it'll and then the other key thing is security aspect, right? So the security aspects, that particular network security has to be enabled with the right setting up rules, and then when whether that particular data has to be exposed to any external customers as well. So all those things need to be established. So with the advent of IoT, so it can be simplified much more easily. So right. So whenever there is a device has been added, and then if there's a platform which detect me automatically, like our device, our mobile device, right? So whenever you just switch on your Bluetooth, so the other device and then the other server can detect that. So that kind of device exploration, and then whether that device has the right embedded the programs on that, or the associated applications apps are up to date. So all those things can be self validated, or it could be validated against particular key. So those things can be enabled in today's this thing. And just to give a glimpse of, there is a platform called Node-RED. So again, it's a developed, it's an open source platform, so it's contributed by IBM. So this one is gives a good platform to create the no code or low code environment, where we can connect the devices to the next level applications. So it's a level 3 or level 4 applications we can connect, but it is recommended to go through the level 3 applications, because level 4 applications mostly need aggregate level of data, right? For example, level 3 applications will be interested in hourly production of some assembly line, whereas a level 4 applications like ERP applications, they will be interested in end of the day how much it has been produced, or end of the day, end of the shift, how much has been produced. So that is the level of granularity they need. So that we can enable that with the right set of configuration, and then the rules built into that. And the main advantages of the current architecture is it leaves most of the load balancing and other things, because in the cloud environment, the end user or the business users need not worry about how many servers on, so how many process, how much percentage it is occupying the process space, how much computing power has been used. So all it has been taken care. So that is a good thing about hosting all these, following the new architecture and hosting in cloud environment. So this is a kind of new environment. What we have seen earlier, it's more traditional, and then this is how the industrial environment look like. If you start from the outermost segment, these are like physical entities, and then the physical system level 0, and then there'll be a sensors, and then these are the what we call the control systems. It could be programmable logic controllers, or it could be SCADA kind of supervisory control and data acquisition kind of system. So which all can directly talk to the edge devices, or it could be talking to the another layer of edge computing devices, which in turn can talk to the aggregator kind of the aggregator kind of devices. So, or it can directly talk to the MQTT broker, which is running on the particular instance. So, which will in turn can communicate to the enterprise applications. So either it could be a Microsoft Azure or Amazon AWS, so which can have. So in that scenario, so it will be the Microsoft Azure or the AWS will have subscribed to this MQTT brokers, which is in turn it is configured on the edge computing device. Like yesterday, we have seen Kepware. So the Kepware application will keep collecting the device data from say from a PLC or SCADA, and then there'll be a OPC server running in this. So OPC server collects the multiple time series data, temperature, pressure from the site or the equipments, and then the OP service servers will have one more layer called MQTT clients. So on top of OPC clients. So once the MQTT clients collect this data, OPC data, and then those topics. So it will have particular location, or so you can configure the topics or subtopics, particular equipment name or site name you can give. So site name followed by process section, and process section followed by the equipment name, and then followed by say particular parameter like temperature, pressure, or flow. So those can be configured in the broker, and then the broker will have subscription from either from Azure or Microsoft, the AWS cloud platforms, or it could be Google cloud platform. So they can subscribe to that and then keep sending the data. And vice versa also it's possible. So because if you have OPC writable tags, so then you can from the MQTT broker itself, you can create a topic here in the cloud platform, and then you can subscribe to the set points, new set points, or production targets. It has to be flown from say enterprise resource planning applications. So you can subscribe from the MQTT broker to the cloud platform. So it will establish two-way communication between what you want to send it to the central locations, or what you want to receive from them. So both a two-way communication is possible with the new architecture. And next is, so once we have a devices and then platform established, and what is the next level? So before we install, before even once we productize, it has to be monetized. So API helps in monetizing. So API stands for, I think most of us familiar. So it's application programming interface. So the difference is the API from the purely technical point of view, it's different from the today's scenario of API. So which is more business focused, right? I mean, anyone who wants to consume the services existing in a particular internal to an organization can be exposed in a more business contextual way, right? So how the API economy came into picture is that from 2005 onwards it was there, but only last 10 years it got momentum. So even you take any of the services, simplified services, for example, say they take the case of Book My Show, right? So the organization which manages the Book My Show, so they don't own any of the assets, right? Starting from uh, login ID. So they will ask you to use one of the popular say email IDs, whether it is a Gmail or Facebook. So all they need to do is just verify with Yahoo or gmail.com, and then they'll just use their APIs. So unless if Book My Show want to themselves verify that chunk of work, that is a huge task, right? They need to write a lot of amount of code, and then they need to maintain all the user base, which is it's next to impossible, right? How to verify a particular user? So that portion is taken care by somebody else. So all they need to is just get an API which is created by Gmail or the Yahoo or other Facebook entities, and then just confirm it. That's it. So the first step is over, and then moment you choose the particular show or no, then all they need to communicate with a central server of API provided by the whichever organization which maintaining the number of seats and other capacity data about the multiple movie theaters. So all they need to is just use the API and then get the data, right? And then the next thing, once you choose the particular hall and then particular seat, and then all you need next is you have to make a payment, right? So again, payment, all they need to is an API provided by the payment gateways, right? So the entire thing is done, and then once the payment is confirmed, then they need to allocate the seat. So that's also one of so the three levels of APIs is used, and then they don't own anything, right? I mean, that's a new economy, right? That is a new services provided, rendered new services, and then it is monetized. So that is a huge change today's world. So that's where it is important for us to know the importance of API, right? So just to show the importance of API, unless somebody has an API, so not having an API today is like not having a website in 1990. So that much important for an organization, especially for the service type of organization, to have identity. So that is the importance. And why it is also important is like a Uber. So most of us used Uber or similar, pay as you go kind of services. So before that, also these services were there. So only thing is the API was not there to connect the supply side as well as the demand side. So this API has given the platform to connect that. And in terms of the market size of the digital economy, if you see, so it is 3 trillion. Just to put a perspective on amount of the revenue it generates. So this is core because this is possible because of the APIs and the components associated with that. So that's why we should know and then learn something about what is API and then how we can use to productize or monetize our services. So this is the basics on what is the difference between. So initial we have started with, if you see the last 10-15 years back, we started with client server architecture, and then we call SOA or service oriented architecture. So where most of the smaller components will keep changing, so keeping the functions up to date, and then accessing the particular data. So we create multiple services, web services, and then traditional web services, and then keep at least the version part, maintaining the different versions of the services separated from the visualization layer or the external applications that has been taken care. So once the web services are taken care, then we came into the what do you call the data format, right? So the data format has been taken care by say JSON and the XML. So irrespective of what type of applications that particular web service has been created, so that doesn't matter. Once the data format is there in JSON or XML format, that portion has been taken care. So next is how to create a RESTful services, right? So because today we need to have more of enable all our applications and services or products around the mobile app base. So it has to be, the connectivity cannot be established or cannot be assured at all the time. So then it came into picture of RESTful web services. It takes care stateless kind of web services. So then from the RESTful web services, then it is become RESTful APIs, which helps how to it can be hosted by multiple different platforms, and it has to be accessed. So once the RESTful APIs are there in picture, so the RESTful API is more focused on internal organization. So whatever the internal services, so those focused on the internal part. So how to expose to the external world, right? I mean, for example, the same use case we were seeing. So so verifying the user is done by Google and for using Gmail and say for example Yahoo. So they are doing for decades, but they were not using that particular microservice or the services as to the external world, right? So once they expose that as a business API, then other organization can use, and then it will generate revenue for Google and Yahoo or similar organizations. So that's where the API came into picture. So it is a gradual, but it is vital for the growth of win-win for both the developers as well as consumers, as well as the organizations which is utilizing that facilities. So this is just some of the differences when you compare the SOAP protocol as well as RESTful services. So earlier it was more producer centric, right? It is more it's up to the the creator or the development team, and then now it has to be more focused on how the customer will going to use these services, right? And then the earlier the SOAP protocol is more on the technical, and now it is more how you need to give a business context, right? How the user will be using, how user will be looking for availing the say the Uber kind of request, or and then food services and other related services. And earlier it was complex because it's more internal, and then there is no bounded rules around that. And now it is more simplified. A lot of standardization happen in the data front as well as other related. And then it is reusability and cost use saving. So earlier it was more only the expenses. Now it can generate, if you have designed the right manner, it will generate revenue as a person when somebody uses your service, and then they take value out of it. So this is just to simplify how the applications were built, right? So earlier somebody has to access any service, even the simple shopping experience. So this is a typical architecture. You will have a database, and then there'll be a data access component, and then the business rule has been built, sometimes more rigid as well, and somebody has to maintain, and then the user interface, which is sometimes tightly coupled with the business logic or to the particular type of database or the specific database. So now with the API, so you can simplify. Just somebody has to know only two-step process. So just he need to access the app and then register, and then he can start purchase any of that and then make a payment. So these are the two or three components. Overall, it has simplified the entire customer experience, right? And then some of the other aspects. So we have seen what is the RESTful services, and then how the APIs has been used. And just to give a perspective of number of APIs, currently it is on the market is almost 50,000 or more. Public APIs are available, so anyone can organization expose, anyone can use those API, and then if you have right proposition or you want to include in the products, and then you can monetize them. And then the customer relationship managed product leader. So this one is they are telling about salesforce.com. So you must have come across is one of the leading CRM application, which now they are making more money by their APIs more than selling their product. Okay, so this is the huge um, importance of having the API economy, how it is changing the fortune of these companies. Just having the right APIs and then how to monetize them. So that makes a lot of difference. And what is the difference between microservice and API? So microservice is more focused on internal focused the components or functions or methods, and then API is more business contextualized microservices, and then it's more customer centric. So how many public APIs exist in the market? It is roughly around 50,000 or more. And then API economy, so we are using multiple pay-as-you-go or platforms which connect supply and the demand part. And what are the key drivers behind the economy? So these are the key drivers, and then keep every day somebody's keep on developing, and then it's open. If you see, even if you go to visit Uber website, so there are components which they're asking developers who can contribute to the API development. So if you have a platform working on coding APIs, and then you can definitely explore these options. Yeah. So now we will get into the first demo. So I'll just play the recorded video. So
This and other petrochemical products of the bulk products are stored in.
So just to give a context about this particular application. So this again similar to the same use case for demonstration purpose built on a platform called Cumula City. It's from a company called Software AG. So the product name is or the IoT platform name is Cumula City. So from Software AG. So this is again IoT platform. So they are also having a demo version. So if any of you interested, so you can utilize that platform to develop a simple use case and then learn. It's more similar to the other the PTC ThingWorks kind of platform. And in fact, Software AG is leaders in some areas like they have portfolio management, what we call IT portfolio, managing multiple applications for a large organization, large companies. So they have a product called Alphabet, and then they have integration application or the integration middleware, what we call enterprise wide integration middleware. It's called Web Methods. So these are the key products which they market. The
Large storage tanks. Monitoring them in a timely fashion is a critical for operations as well as safety point of view. These storage tanks are built and operated on different geographical locations distributed globally. This, the storage tanks receive products from multiple locations, stores, and dispatch them to multiple customers on 24/7 basis. For an effective inventory management, these essential business operations have to be monitored, tracked, and supported in coordinated manner. Any untoward incident can disrupt the supply chain with high repercussions for the organization and for the global economy. So few of the organizations rely on manual way of monitoring the tank inventories. This may result in error-prone, expensive, time-consuming, and intensive in real time from anywhere and any location. With the remote monitoring, it reduces the transportation fuel, labor, and accident-related cost. Also, initial setup and maintenance cost will be less. So, enhance visibility of inventory, optimize the tank capacity of terminal overview page of the screen. This the overview screen. It is connected the physical model which is showing here and this the 3D model captured on the right left top corner and the representation of here is showing here. This has a demo setup for two tanks which is transfer the data transfer the fluid from one tank to another for the demo purposes. And each tank has equipped with level sensor, one flow meter, temperature sensor, pressure meter, and valve statuses sensors, and also for pump operations, pump start and stop, and pump bearing temperature, pump speed, and pump vibration information. Also, it can be available to see in the overview. Displays in a real-time manner, and the flow changes. The flow will be fluctuated in a vertical bar graph. And in this here, we can create data points in a graph. We can see some of the trends, key parameters. We can pick it up, and also it will classify events and alarms. What is any event? As the if we configure them, it will be classified here. So here, if you click this navigation, click on this on the top of the screens, or it is on the left side of the pane as well. So the welcome screen, tank details and pump details and trends. If I click on this tank details, it will give it, it will take you to the soft signal. In this screen, we can see this individual tank detail, tank information with their measurements, the tank height and tank current level, and how much is the flow for the tank, what is the pressure flow rate coming into the tank, and also temperature of the tank, and also associated pumps or running pump status also. Similarly, you can see here temperature gauge in pressure in a gauge information. Right. Also, you can create alarm list and event list for this tank for this respective the tank. If I move to this pump details, it will provide information about each pump associated with the tank. So MP1001 pump associated with the tank TK001 and MP2 pump associated with TK002, which is shown in overview screen. And in this screen, we see about pump information and parameters like pump, what is the status of the pump showing in a running. The pump status is running means it is in the green color. It is in stop means it is in red color and shows what is the RPM of the pump and what is the vibration, pump sensor, which is the temperature. All of this information will be fetching from the sensors remotely. And here and the below, we can see the graph for bearing temperature or pump RPM as well as the vibration. Similarly, we can have some graphs comparing temperatures, bearing temperature versus RPM. Also, it is configured for the pump run statuses and alarms and events for the pump also can be configured. As we mentioned earlier, it's possible to operate the associated equipments, the pump. So this is the place where we can configure the pump operations. The pump start and stop buttons will be coming here. It has to be configured from here. Right. So these are we have seen all the IoT solution wireless remote tank monitoring overview and associated the equipment like a tank and pumps. Okay. Now I'm moving to this trends page where it is pre-configured for 24 hours of trends for different parameters for the both tank 1 and tank 2. You see the first two row gives tank 1 and tank 2 level and flow trends. All this in this is two columns. One first column represents tank 1, second column represents tank 2 associated things. The second row is gives pump 1 speed and energy trend information. And the below graph is for pump 1 and pump 2 bearing temperatures information to provide this. And we can see this different color coding of the bar graph associated. If I move to this next, this is the day-to-day operations of the field by the operators as well as maintenance. And if it's next, we're going to the scheduler view. It gives a scheduler view about terminal level where it shows the tank inventory positions for to give the information to the scheduler for their decision making of the batches, and gives the information with the batch when it is coming to this terminal and what is the inventory positions at the tank and how much is the storage is available for this many days of storage available for this tank. And it gives here the terminal productivity information where it is highlighted, which is volume is very less, it will be highlighted in the red color, shows this adjustment information. And also we can show this here linked to this map view for across the locations, and it will display.
Yeah, just to give a context, so this one my colleague explaining is for pipeline operations where terminals will handle multiple products, right? Our petrol, diesel, and other products from one place to another. So even India also, we have a huge pipelines which transport from producing locations from refineries to multiple states and the district level. So they used to transport all these store the petroleum products in large storage tanks, and then they will transport them in a pipeline. So
For this
during
tank.
that, this terminal they'll have a better view of each product, how much level in each of these
But the
locations.
batch when it is coming
So
to
and
this
then
tank,
each of this it will turn red whenever the inventory sufficient inventory is not there. And then so these are all the data which will be flowing in and out of the level 4 applications. So so this is shows how we can connect the IoT data and then how we can use for decision making. So if the sub particular level is less, then that what we call the person called scheduler. So he is in charge of that. He need to make an arrangement either to procure or arrange from other organizations, other oil companies to meet that demand. So that is the context of this particular
terminal and
demonstration.
what is the inventory positions at the tank and how much is the storage is available for this many days of storage available for this tank. And it gives here the terminal productivity information where it is highlighted, which is volume is very less, it will be highlighted in the red color, shows this adjustment information. And also we can show this here linked to this map view for across the locations, and it will display terminal locations and what is information for the about the that location or the tank information with the status of the inventory. The green color is a normal, it is a red in you need to take a decision, or low inventory, take a decision. And it is in this with these IoT solutions, it is flexible as we mentioned. It can be added any other further sensors required. You can control them by simply configuring this.
So other visualization, one of the key areas in IoT visualization is incorporating the GIS data. So that is one of the important aspects. So even telecom companies or utility companies, right? The electricity board and other public services companies, they all use IoT data to send the technician on particular location. So they all use IoT data overlaid on top of the GIS data. So GIS also, there are a lot of open source. Some of few of them you must have already come across. So they all use the IoT data overlaying that to help the maintenance technician even to locate. So for example, in the electricity board, so they want to locate some substation particular, and then they need to do some maintenance. So they'll have IoT combined with mapping solution. So that helps them in completing their day-to-day activities.
In the sense of to this.
So we'll get into the other demonstration part. So more on the things board. So hope you able to access that and then created that. So once you launch, so this is the landing page. I think most of must have already accessed. So to start with, so it's more asset centric, right? So the use case can be created for a particular building or any other particular manufacturing location, or it could be an apartment. So you can define the hire started. So I'm just starting with creating an asset. So you need to use the plus symbol on the right topmost, and then you can choose add a new asset. Then you can give a name and then give asset type. So it could be building or anything you can define, and then you can label it. So once asset is created, and then it will have the associated attributes around that, and then the relations. This is where we will be associating the particular device attached to this, right? So it can be one or multiple layers you can create, and then next is we will go to. Hope you are able to create the asset, right? It's more straightforward and then intuitive, so we can create that. And next is we need to create and devices and then associate them with that. So I'm going to create a device. So I'm going to add a new device. Then I'll create a humidity measurement, humidity sensor, so which tell how much relative humidity of particular place. So, and then device type, I'll go with device. So you have other options as well. So, and then you can give some description associated with that, and then add it. So all the device associated parameters or configuration things you can see here. So details and then other attributes you can create, and then so we'll be more concentrating on the telemetry data. So this is nothing but the actual values we have received from the device, physical device. And then we can configure alarms and then events associated with it, what has to be triggered, and then the relation. So you can create one or more devices. So I'll just create 2 sensors. So I just rename them. I'm creating one more. And same device types, and then you can add it. So now for the demo purpose, I created a couple of humidity sensors, and then I will associate with the asset, which is nothing but particular building. So I'm just going back to the asset and choosing the asset which created a minute back. So, and then go to the relations, and then you can add the particular. So here the relationship, we can keep it contains, and then you can choose the device. So you can choose the one you have created. So, and then add it. So now we have associated this particular sensor to the asset what we have created. So, and then I'll add the other sensor as well as to this. So I'm going to the relations tab, add it, device, but this time I'll use the other humidity sensor too. So now we have added both the sensors to that asset, to the building. Now the next step is, so now if you see the devices, there is no data flowing in. So what we need to do is we need to create some simulated data, and then we should ensure we are getting some values for testing, right? Before we connect the actual device, we need to create some simulated test data. So for that, we need to go to the rule chain. So this is the place where we can set up rules which defines how we get from the actual sensors or the controllers, and then what process it has to be taken. So those things are defined here. So here by default there is a rule chain which is called root rule chain. So which is like a orchestrator, or it is like a broker which agents which takes care of all the subsequent custom defined rule chains or the business rules. So this defines how what needs to be done when each of these business rules are executed. So the key components in this root rule chain. So you can just open that, and then you can see a UI which has the block diagram or IDE where we can define the rules, right? So this particular root rule chain, so it gives the input, gets the input, and then it switches to what it has to be done, whether it is has to be post to telemetry data, or if in case of some the device is not available, then what it has to be done, and then what a specific attribute it has to update, or any remote procedure call from the devices it has to be act upon. So it will switch the based on the type of request and then the rule based on that. So we'll go back to the rule chain, and then we will create the rule. Our main objective is to get some simulated data for the sensor, which we have created just a couple of minutes ago. So click the right plus symbol, and then I'm going to create. So this is for humidity. I'll say humidity emulation data. So because we are going to simulate the data for testing purpose. So now the rule has been added up. So once you click, so open the rule chain. So this is a default block, and then what we are going to use the one simple data generator for this purpose. So on the left, you can see the block called generator. So you can double click and then place it on the IDE. So it will create. So what is the rule? So humidity data. So and then on the row number 3, so this is where how frequently you want to, because this is simulated data. So either you can have once in how many seconds it has to be, up to date, updated. So I just give 5. So you can give any number, and then the originator is device, and then you can here you are associating with the sensor what you have created. Okay. I'm just associating with only one of the sensors. Okay. So here, if you see, so for the default, you may get something, the message type different. That is for the actual device. So we need to replace that. So you want to expand this particular add rule. So you can just use this expand. So here in 2 places, you need to make a change. So based on the parameter you have chosen, so you need to update this part, and then you may have to use the code. So now I'll just change to humidity. So this is only 2 lines you need to update. Rest all is fine. So no need to change anything. I'll just post as well as in the. So you can just copy paste this and then just modify only that 2 steps. So one is this particular first line you need to modify. So you can just, I'm just replacing. So just we are equating our parameter with some random number generator, and then this one we are changing the message type to just to post to the telemetry request. So once you update these 2 steps, I think done. So just add it. So the generator block is ready. So now we need to link this generator block to the root rule chain. So then only it will divert or channelize this data, the simulated data, to the particular sensor what we have created. Sorry, root rule chain. So here you need to specify the root rule chain, so that, and then just link them together. So on success of this message, successful generation, then it has to flow to the successful generation of this simulated data for the humidity value, then it will channelize it to the root rule chain. Right? I'll just repeat. So this one, just a drag and drop, and then edit that. And then if you want to expand, so this first line we have modified. Based on the sensor name, you can, it's the temperature, pressure, whichever name you give, just update this. And then this message type you update as post telemetry request. So only these 2 changes you need to make. And then once done, just click the right arrow there. So it will get this changes, it will get saved. So now we created the simulated data for one of the sensors. So now we'll go to the device module and then we can check that. So the humidity sensor is the one. So, and then go to the tab on the top row and then click on the latest telemetry. And then you just check whether you are getting up to date, the value is getting updated. So once this is done, and then we have configured the asset part, and then we created the device. We linked the one or more devices to that particular asset. So in our case, it's a building. And then once we associated, then we generated simulated values for that particular device or sensor. And then we linked that using the rule chain. And then where rule chain, we have linked two things. One is the custom defined or the user defined one. And then we have linked to the root rule chain where it will take care of the messaging, channelizing the messages. So now next step, so one is the setting up asset, setting up the device, and then now next we will create the visualization. So for visualization, it is called dashboards. So dashboards, you can create the new dashboard. So on the again on the right topmost corner, so you can create. Just click the plus symbol and then create a new dashboard. Then you can create. Then so once the dashboard is ready, so then you can select that particular dashboards which you have created, and then you can edit it if you want to make any change, or you can just go to that particular dashboard. And then so we need to create some alias. So it's now there is no. So you need to click the bottommost thing, and then you need to add entity alias. So entity is nothing but, so the dashboard is like a overall container or canvas. So the container canvas can have one or more entities or views, right? So I'm going to create a view. So on the top menu, so next to the settings kind of icon, so there is a entity alias. So you need to create a new alias or new views for the thing values or the sensor. So create a add alias, and then you can create. So I'm just grouping all the humidity related data. So here I can associate all the, I can search. Okay. So in the view, I'm going to take only the humidity sensor data, right? So in the alias, so you need to have, you can explore and then just see, search for the devices containing device type. So once assets are added and then widgets are added, then we can go to the entity views. add a new widget. So this is more adding the visualization. So you can choose the cards. It's a more simplest representation of the data. So you can choose the latest values you want to display. So you can choose, then add which data source. So humidity data. So the humidity data alias is not having that. So let me just. So once you add the widget, so you will have either it's a textual, the same data, different visualization. So it's time series as well as the chart form, or it could be a simple text box. You can add it. So you can try out yourself. So this completes the demonstration of this particular tool. So you can try yourself and then try to explore the other functionalities in this. So let me know if you have any other queries, then we can discuss on.
Any questions or anything that you would like to discuss? We'll be completing the session today. So anything on the whole, on whatever was discussed on all these days, if you would like to discuss with him or clarify, please raise your questions.
Sir, good morning, sir.
Yeah, please.
Sir, can we think API and server both are same, sir?
API is more, it's one particular component, right? So it is, you can think of one function, ma'am.
Okay.
Yeah, one function or one method. So which is you are exposing to the external world, right? Not within the application, but it is to the external world, right? For example, if you are verifying user, that is one API, right? Or if you are finding some, for example, some location, some availability of some material or some, right, some service available in that particular place. So if you find out and then host that as a service, it's a API. So you can say that by giving, right, a location, right? If I give a longitude, latitude of that location, if you have developed, say for example, you have developed a API, and then that main objective is to collect the services or aggregate the services on that particular location, right? So then you can sell that as an API. So where you collect the data and what are the, who are the service provider or product vendors in that particular place. So when you host the API, so to the external world, you will ask only two questions, right? One is what is the longitude, what is the latitude. So the customer will send you that, and then you in turn will access multiple websites, and then you aggregate and then say these are the 10 products and services available in that GPS coordinates, right? So then this you can call as a API.
Sir, it means API and microservices are all included in all web services, sir. API
Correct,
and
correct.
microservices. Correct, sir. Both
Yeah.
applications are involved in all the web servers. Correct, sir.
Yes, yes. So
Okay.
API means you can monetize that. So you will get paid for that. You need to pay if you avail somebody's API, then you need to pay. If you have, if you are the provider of API, then you will, get money for that.
I'll get that. Okay,
Yes.
understood, sir. Understood.
And
Thank you, sir.
microservices means only to the internal to your organization, right?
So it's an architecture. Microservice means it's an architecture, sir.
Correct. Yes, yeah. That is, you create yourself from one application. Suppose as an organization, your own organization, you have 2 or 3 applications, right? From one application to another, you want to communicate, then you will use microservices.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
But same thing, you want to expose to the external world, then you will create a API. So the main difference is you will add some business context. So you internally you will say, like the earlier example, longitude, latitude, you will say. But to the external world, you will ask some pin code, right, of that particular place, which the end user can understand easily.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Any other questions? Anyone has anything else to clarify? Okay, so I think then we would end the session. Those of you who are willing to start your video just to show your faces to rest of the people who are willing to can switch on the video. I'll just capture a snapshot of the participants. Thank you. All those who would like to, you can switch on. Nice to see you all. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Sir,
Have a good day.
Our sincere thanks to you. So it's been a very good workshop for 4 days. So for all the students, it was very informative. We had the faculty members and also research scholars who have joined. Some of them could be working on this research area. I'm sure it would have been very helpful to them. One thing that today's curriculum and all that, where we really like to have a value addition is to bring in industry experts like you all to give students a real feel on how these applications work in the real-time domain. So it was a very good information that was shared, and all the demonstrations were highly useful. I'm sure they would be able to relate to all this IoT domain better, whatever they have been reading so far as part of their curriculum. They'll now have an idea on how exactly it is applied back in the industry. Our special thanks to your colleague, Mr. Jeevan, too, for joining us yesterday and giving us a very good demonstration. I would also like to thank the other coordinator, Dr. Bharati ma'am, for supporting me on this. And our sincere thanks to SRM management for arranging this workshop for students and faculty members all over. And our thanks to the IT team for the complete support on this video conferencing facility. Thank you so much, sir. It was a wonderful workshop. And
thank you very much, sir. Pandirajan, sir, you have given you have provided us a different dimension in IoT. Okay, so whatever we learned, almost theoretical part concepts only they used to cover, but this workshop is entirely different. Much of hands-on experience has given to the candidates. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, everyone. I hope a few of you can apply whatever you come across, just to get a glimpse of whatever. So it would have been better than physically if you can undergo the training. It will be much more effective.
But you have covered it up all. Being on a virtual environment, you have given your best on showing all the demo to them. So they wouldn't have missed out anything for not being a physical meeting, though.
Sure.
And we
so
have consolidated.
I have never saw the IoT simulator and all for protocols, what you have explained and all. I have never come across till now. So that is a very good experience.
Sure, ma'am. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, everyone. So
we will be consolidating all these recordings, sir. We will share it again for your reference too, and we will distribute it to the participants, all the 4-day recordings together.
Sure.
Thank you so much, sir, for being with us all 4 days. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good day. Bye.
Yeah, I request all the participants to fill this feedback link. So I'm just going to post the feedback link. We'll be taking this for the final.
Preeta ma'am, we need to take a screenshot of everyone switch on the video and take a screenshot.
Yeah, I've requested some of them, but at a time we have only this many things on the gallery, ma'am. How should we adjust?
No problem, ma'am. We shift the screen. We are having that.
Can you capture the picture? I'm not able to do a screenshot and move out. It does not allow me to minimize. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
We request whoever is willing to please turn on your videos. We would like to see you all and capture a screenshot.
No, I request everybody to turn on, please.
Yeah. Please quickly turn on your videos. Yes, please turn on your video.
Yes, ma'am. Saving it.
Okay.
Ma'am, wait, my webcam is still not on.
Okay. Please switch it on.
We
have close to 71 participants. I hope you have captured.
Very good.
Were you able to capture all screens, ma'am?
But they are not showing their videos, ma'am. That's the problem.
We just give them 1 or 2 more minutes. There are people who are switching on now.
Yes, yes. Padmavati, ma'am, you clear that lens, ma'am. Camera lens, it's blurred actually. Everybody, please switch on your video.
Yes,
Let me
we
take.
still have a lot of people who have not switched on. We request you all to switch
Ma'am,
on,
I have
please.
to reconnect for switching on my webcam.
My camera is some problem, ma'am.
Okay.
Let me capture it.
And now we have a couple of more people switched on.
Camera is some problem, ma'am.
Okay. Kalyan Das, can you switch on your video or otherwise? Kalyan Das.
Yes, in this screen, I think only few people are missing out, right? The first
Yeah.
Excuse me, ma'am. Can you allow my one? Ma'am, I'm right now joining from my phone. Can you allow me, please,
Yeah, sorry.
to switch on my camera?
Yes.
I think some people dropped. I've allowed all those people in. Yes.
Kalyan Das, can you please switch on your video? Because I think you are inside the frame, but you alone not showing the video.
Yes. Kalyan Das, are you there? I think you can capture now.
Okay, ma'am. Yeah, I have captured some 3 samples.
Fine, you have captured it, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Fine.
I'm just posting the feedback link here. I request all of you to give your feedback. So we'll be using this to track your attendance as well. We'll consolidate all the 4 days attendance, and your e-certificates will be emailed to you by this weekend. So all of you would be receiving your certificate of participation that will be emailed to your registered address. Sharing your, just give me a minute. I'm going to share this feedback link. The recording has all the PPT. Somebody is requesting for the PPT. So whatever he covered, the entire screen has been captured. So your PPT will be part of your recording. We are going to consolidate all the 4 recordings, put it on a Google Drive and share the link with you. That will be sent in the same mail we'll send out a mail to all those registered address. You will get the Google Drive link for the recordings through email. Please remember to submit the feedback form before you leave. Thanks to each one of you for joining us on this workshop for all 4 days. Thank you.
Ma'am?
Yes?
Can you send the feedback form link, ma'am?
I'll post it again.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
As you all leave, please remember to fill in the feedback form. Reposting the link. I've been posting it again, see? What happened? Anyone has the issue?
Maybe you're sending it to a particular person rather than sending to everyone.
Oh, sorry. Yes. Okay, sorry about it. I didn't notice I had sent some private message and didn't change the setting. Now I posted it to you all. E-certificates will be sent over this weekend. We are planning to send all that this Sunday, so you will be receiving it this weekend.
Ma'am, can the submitted people leave the meeting?
Sorry, your voice is feeble. What is that?
After submitting the form, can we leave the meeting?
Yeah, please. Sure. Thank you. Thanks for
Thank you, ma'am.
joining.
Thank
All
you.
those who have submitted the form can please leave the meeting unless you have any questions. Your e-certificates will be issued to you by this Sunday. Thank you so much. Thank you all for joining. Okay, regarding the certificates, so it will be sent to you this Sunday. All of you will be receiving it over this weekend.
Ma'am, you will mail them, right?
It will be emailed, yes, right.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. So once you are done, please leave. So I will know that you are all done. I'm waiting for others to complete. We still have 16 people. I'm waiting for them to finish it. Just in case you require any clarification or assistance, be staying back for it. There is one person who wanted to join who got dropped. Gajendra Sinha. Admitted him, but looks like he still has some network issues. Have you joined? Those who have submitted the form can leave the meeting. Thank you. Those who have submitted the feedback forms can leave the meeting. Thank you.